Thank you so much, Dora. And thank you all for being with me here today, for inviting me into your space and welcoming me into your space to think together para hacer pastoral y teología Dei en conjunto. It's something that Actus Spaces that it's so fun. We do a lot of teología en conjunto. I'm not sure we do a lot of pastoral en conjunto. So to do them both is really something wonderful and something I enjoy doing. Today, I've been looking at the term synodality, and I titled my talk, Synodality Beyond Dialogue, Desde el Baile al Chisme. And so I'm not going to talk to you a whole lot because we don't have very much time, but I did want to just mention a few things. So in looking at the documents from the Synod on the Amazon, so the most recent document, or the most recent Synod, I was looking at how people were interpreting what happened there, both from the media people as well as theologians. And it was something very fascinating to see that in English, people were using the word dialogue as the main term of what synodality meant. In Spanish, there was so much broader understanding of that. And I think it's no accident because of Aparecida, Puebla, Ceilán, all of this history of Latin America and the Latin American bishops, and even the here in the US, the Latinoa Church. So I'm using the term synodality to think about opening, deepening, and broadening reform for the church. How do we think about these areas to do that? And I teach a course at the university at the master's level called From Trent to Vatican II and Beyond. And so the first part of the course is on reformations. And just last week, I asked my master's students, what do you do to think of yourself as a reformer? What did these reformers do? So we're studying all the big reformers. We did Teresa de Avila and Martin Luther. This week we have Juan de la Cruz and Ignacio de Loyola. And so I invite you to think about that question. How did the great reformers think, and what kind of decisions did they make, and how did they use their modalities in the world, what was available for them to make lasting, impactful change? So that's the first thing. Then I started thinking, as Hispanic, Latino people, we are always reforming. We're always changing and shifting and thinking of ourselves here in the USA. And we move across boundaries and cultures all the time through the day and daily. I mean, I was here and then now on Zoom even more, so I was here and then I left, and I literally left to go to a Ph.D. committee meeting where the mode changes completely and I have to keep my arms down and look very serious. But now you see my arms flailing again because I'm with all of you. And so we're always reforming and we're always navigating different spaces. We're always living in the in-between. We're always caring for multiple members of our communities, and we're always carrying multiple members of our communities. I just had a student write to me and she said, I made a different decision than how you mentored me to do it, but I discerned it and I decided this was the right decision, but you were in my mind the whole time. And I don't know how our mentoring relationship continues here because I made this different decision. And I thought, oh, we're always carrying other people with us when we go on vacation, or maybe when we go on vacation again, not right now. We always bring recuerdos, right? Every place we go, ay, le voy a llevar esta cosita para so-and-so and so-and-so. And my husband's German, and he's like, why do you have to bring a big suitcase with you to take stuff back to like everybody in the world? And it's a bunch of little things that he doesn't necessarily think are important. And I'm like, you have to remember people, and we carry them with us. And then we also celebrate life. And so the first paragraph of Gaudium et Spes always stands out to me. The joys and the hopes, the griefs and the anxieties of the people of this age, especially those who are poor or anyway afflicted. These are the joys and hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the followers of Christ. And I'll let you finish reading that yourself on Gaudium et Spes. But very much we carry that with us as a Latino church, as Hispanic ministers, and it's what we do constantly. So in many ways, I don't think, before last week, I didn't think of myself as a reformer, but then I started thinking, well, why not? And we live in a time where reformation is kind of constant, but also necessary. You know, for me, the world stopped on March 12th. So March 11th, everything was still kind of normal. I had a fever. I was in El Paso. That's my hometown. I got on a plane. I came back to Dayton. As I was on a plane, the decision was made to shut down the university, send everybody home. The whole world changed in just a couple of hours. And that's what we're all doing right now, is that we are reforming the church. So then what does that have to do with synodality? What tools can help us think about opening, deepening, and broadening reform in the church and in the world? And this is why I use Gaudium et Spes, because I think it's so important. So just a couple of things, and I don't want to take the whole time. Synodality as dialogue concerns me quite a bit, because dialogue assumes a mutuality that I don't think exists in our church. And the question of bottom up, and we come from people who are bottom-up people, iglesias, comunidades de base, small Christian communities. These are our groups, and we have prayer services and posadas that happen in our homes. So we are bottom-up people. And I'm not sure that dialogue really brings that with it. There's power structures in there. There's questions of hierarchy, all kinds of other things. So there's uneven power structures. I think dialogue centralizes some cultures over others. Like I said, I went to the Ph.D. committee meeting and I have to sit there like this, and I can't be like with my arms flailing. Otherwise I will scare the two white men on the committee, because then they're like, Neomi's gonna come through the Zoom and hit us with her hand. No, I know I won't, pero that's what may be the thing that I'm giving off. And then the other piece of dialogue is that I think it leaves too much power to the pen. And I say this as an academic who writes and publishes all the time. I have a lot of power of the pen. People ask me to write for them. But it leaves too much for whoever is writing the script that's going to stay behind, rather than what can be carried on. So I don't think dialogue is the same as encuentro or conjunto. And we could spend a whole lot of hours talking about that. But I do think we need to draw from all that we are and our entire beings and our whole body in an incarnational way. And so I'm going to share this link. I'm just going to share a couple of minutes of this video. And the video is my point on dancing, and the video is from the Tigua peoples. And it was the memorial for the first anniversary of the Matanza in El Paso on August 3rd. So this happened August 3rd of this year, from the Matanza of last year. And I just want you to watch, pay really close attention to what is happening on the far right-hand side of the screen and what seems out of place a little bit. So I think you're not going to see me, so that I can optimize the sound. And so you see on the right side of the screen, there's a baby stroller, and it's an empty baby stroller because somebody is dancing with the baby. And so I chose dancing because I think it's a way for us to think about many different things. One, the notion of where do we draw from our deep embodiment, our own incarnation, that we tap into the incarnation of Christ. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that that's how we pass on our own traditions and our own cultures, is we carry future generations with us, even if it means dancing with them, even if it means we need to have the baby stroller right there, because when they get a little too heavy, we're going to put them down and push for a little bit and then pick them up again. But these are the things that we think through. And also, the baby may have some choice, but not all choice. But as we're working with the youth too, how are we paying attention to their own rhythms and cultures? And as we're working with communities that may not be central in our parishes or who have been marginalized, how do we think about those rhythms that are coming out? And then both of our opening prayers today were very much filled with rhythms and dance and some syncopation, and that made me want to dance right away. These are the things that make us come together in different ways and at entire embodied incarnational levels, much more than dialogue. And then finally, I want to talk about el chisme. So I know many times el chisme is seen as something very negative. And I really know that Pope Francis does not like el chisme. This is one of the places he and I disagree very much, because I actually think that there's a lot that can be understood from paying attention to el chisme. So like dancing and paying attention to dancing that is fully embodied, el chisme is something that's coming out of our communities and something that people engage in. So it cannot be separated from our daily experience, from lo cotidiano. It also helps us to understand our own human finitude, because el chisme is only chisme if somebody has broken the unspoken rules. Otherwise, it's just like something not interesting. I put on socks today. I'm not going to tell the whole world about that. But I put on the neighbor socks today. Well, then everybody's like, Neomi's wearing the neighbor socks. ¿Qué pasó? Porque tiene las calcetas del vecino, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, that's not really the case. I'm wearing my own socks. Pero the thinking of it questions, and it brings to question, what are our unspoken norms? So it also brings in our understanding of our own human finitude. And then it places at the forefront our own constructions of reality, but then how do we move and shift around those? So while we might be scandalized in the beginning that I'm wearing the neighbor's socks, only to find out that, I don't know, the neighbor had a garage sale, so then I bought the socks. So it doesn't become, that's now just my socks, but it's no longer chisme. We're moving things around. And then finally, chisme provides a place that I think dialogue does not, because it provides a place for contradictions and context. And we are people of contradiction, because we are people who live in these in-between spaces as Hispanics, as Latinos. And so we are constantly living out those contradictions, and we are constantly trying to see which of those contradictions we put at the forefront and which we put behind us. And so in doing that, it also helps us as a way to resist dominant structures, because the other thing is that many times el chisme is what's happening at a lower level. You know, what we can say out in public, that's dialogue. But what happens behind closed doors, what is happening in the chat here, but everybody now knows that on Zoom you can share the chat and the host gets to see it. So now there's no chisme really happening in the chat. Instead, there's like the nice greetings. Oh, good to see you. I'll catch up with you later. That's now the code for, I have something to tell you, but I'm not going to tell you here, because this is a dialogue space, not a chisme space, or this is a space that has different power understandings and different relational understandings. So that's the other piece that I think is important about why we should pay attention to chisme. Again, I know that chisme can be very negative and very hurtful, but I also think we need to pay attention to what is being shared with us in those modes of communication, and what are other modes of communication beyond el baile y el chisme that are coming from our communities, both the people who are with us in our parishes and in our ministries, but also from people who feel so estranged. So thank you very much.